Bobby Brown is back. This year marks the release of his first CD in nearly 15 years. The new disc is called The Masterpiece, which is already getting some buzz around the first single, Get Out the Way. Later this year, he and the original New Edition members are planning a reunion to celebrate their 30th.
30 years.
Wow. Makes you feel old.
Yeah.
Their 30th anniversary, more on that in a moment. First, though, Bobby Brown, good to have you on this program.
Thank you for having me, Tavis.
You doing all right, man?
I've been good. I've been really good, actually.
I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I said 30 years. Does it seem like 30 years to you?
Yeah. All of that I've been through in my life, you know, yeah, it does feel like 30 years, but it feels like a good 30, you know, after everything that, you know, everything you go through, you learn from everything, you know. So all the lessons that I had to learn, I'm just grateful to be here today.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. When you say all the lessons that you had to learn, let me just deconstruct that. Why did you have to learn these lessons?
Well, in order to become, you know, a grown man, in order to become, you know, significant in my family and significant in my children's life, I had to, you know, learn my lessons. You know, I started early. You know, at 14 years old, you know, we were traveling around the world making buku amounts of money, and you know, sometimes that can get to you, and it definitely got to me. And you know, I didn't know how to deal with it when I was younger. If I had the same mind that I have right now, back then, I'll be a billionaire, definitely. But you know, I'm just glad I went through the things that I had to go through in order to become the man that I am today.
Yeah. I haven't experienced it at your level, and I pray God I never have to. But the one thing about being a public figure is that whatever mistakes you make, whatever miscalculations, miscues, you know where I'm going with this, whatever you do, it's done so publicly. People are, I mean, everybody sees everything, they talk about everything. That video will haunt you to the grave.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How have you processed having to make these mistakes, to learn these lessons in such a public way?
Well, I learned from watching it. I learned from, you know, watching myself, like the television show I had being Bobby Brown. I looked at myself and I just analyzed myself and dissected everything that was wrong. Just took it out of my life. And I'm living so much better now. I'm eating better. I'm loving better. My children are happier. I'm just a better person right now, you know. So, you know, I learned from watching myself.
Yeah. How do you, for people watching, and I'm anxious to talk about the record, we'll get to that, I promise. For people watching, and again, none of us is human and divine, we're just human, we all make mistakes.
Right.
But when it goes, let me break this into two questions. How does it go so wrong? How does it go so bad? Then we'll talk about how you swing back from that. But how do you get so out of sorts, so out of whack?
Well, you give a young man at 18 years old a couple $1 million. And watch him destruct. That's what happened to me. I was always a part of the hip hop world, and you know, party this and you know, girls and you know, cars, fast cars and jewelry, and that can hurt you. And then drugs come into play, and when drugs come into play, that's when you really lose it, because you know, I'm glad to say I'm 6 years clean, and you know, it's when drugs come into play, it's just about that. You lose love for yourself, you lose love for your family, you lose love for your friends, and it just becomes drugs, you know. You know, and then you're driving all these nice fancy cars, and you got all this jewelry, and you got these big houses, and everything just turns to material.
Yeah.
And I've learned, you know, that, you know, it's not always the best thing, you know, to be comfortable in this business. Comfort is just, I'm comfortable in my skin now, and not comfortable in a house, you know, or comfortable in a car, or comfortable wearing, you know, the newest fashions or, you know, the watches and the jewelry.
As a matter of fact, I was noticing when you walked out, you ain't got no jewelry on today.
No,
you ain't got a ring, you ain't got a watch, you ain't
I don't
got a
got a
necklace.
ring yet. I don't got a ring yet, but soon, you know, I'll be getting married again. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I asked that. I'm being funny about it on a certain level, but I'm asking that because, and I'm not suggesting that when you go on stage and do your thing, you don't have to get fly and get all dressed up. But is this part of your maturation that you can come on a show stripped down and just be Bobby Brown, that you don't have to have all the bling and the ice and the floss?
I feel that the simplicity of life is just being yourself, you know. So I just try to be myself and just you know, I've had all of that. I've been there and I've done that, you know, the old saying. But I'm just a better person now. I'm just happy with being Bobby Brown, and it just pours out of me, you know, naturally now.
I've been in 1,000 conversations, it feels like, Bobby, and I think this may make sense to you. And for those watching, I'm sure they've said this at times. I've been in 1,000 conversations over the years where I've watched people who I'm a fan of, including Bobby Brown, persons I've been a fan of, and you see them going off the rails. Not that I'm perfect, I'm a cracked vessel as well. But I've seen people go off the rails, and I've said to myself, if I could just get to Bobby. Bobby just needs somebody around him who loves him,
right,
like I do, who cares for him, who wants to see the best for him, don't want nothing from him. I'm just a huge Bobby Brown fan, and I want to be there for Bobby. I've said that about a whole bunch of people. Now, there's no evidence anywhere that just because you and I would have been friends back then,
right,
that I could have helped you. But I say that to ask the question, what happens to people around you who ought to be trying to get you out of that, pull you back, help you when you're going through that? Are those folks around? Are they not around? Have they left you? Are they doing this stuff with you? I mean, who cares about you during these down periods?
At these down times, you know, it's like you don't really care for yourself. So it doesn't matter what anybody cares about you. And once you don't care about yourself, then, you know, everybody else goes out the window, you know. Nobody can tell you anything when you got, like, you know, millions of dollars, and, you know, you can do anything you want, and you can pay people to say yes, or, you know, you can do that. But I'm glad that I've had genuine friends that always been concerned about me and always worried about me and always tried to get in touch with me when I wouldn't, you know, try to get in touch with them, when I wouldn't answer the phone, when I wouldn't, you know, when I didn't want to, you know. See, this is the thing that I learned, that I had to want to get better for myself, you know. If anybody could tell me, my mother could tell me, my father could tell me, but if I didn't want it, then I wasn't gonna, you know, accept it and get it. I had to want to get better for myself, and I wanted to get better for myself. And 6 years ago, it was the you know, the straw that broke the camel's back. You know, I had to.
You and I are both black men.
Yes.
As if you didn't know. I think the Betty White joke now. Yeah, she busted my chops the other night. But you and I are both African American men, and I raised that because you just mentioned your mother. And I have found in my life that I have a book out, as a matter of fact, right now, where there are 3 or 4 stories I tell in the book that I was so embarrassed and so humiliated by, I couldn't even tell my mama for 20 plus years. And you know where I'm going with this. We hate disappointing our mamas.
Yeah.
We hate letting our mamas down. So let me ask you a 2-part question. When you were going through this, how did you feel about letting your mama down, number 1? And number 2, I know your mother passed away not so long ago, and if you don't mind talking about that, what does watching her struggle and transition, how did that impact your sobriety?
Well, when I was going through it, I couldn't even answer the phone for my mom. When I was, you know, in addiction, it was way too embarrassing to be able to even talk to her over the phone. Nevertheless, you know, go and see her. I lived in Jersey, and I lived in Atlanta, and she lived in Atlanta, and, you know, I couldn't find myself being in front of her the way I was. So that was definitely embarrassing for me. And that's one of the reasons why I had to get clean, because, you know, my mother that's Ma Brown. She will cuss you out and cook you some food and then give you a bed to sleep in.
Yeah.
So, you know, I couldn't even be in front of her. And then the second part of your question, I miss her, you know.